Hey guys, thanks for listening to the Spiritual Grind. We hope you enjoy it, and don't forget to follow, hit the little bell for your notifications when the podcast is posted, and like, follow, and share with your friends. We hope you enjoy it. Leave a comment if there's any topics that you want us to speak about.
Like, follow, share.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jenny. Guess what?
What?
We're doing another podcast.
Yay! My favorite thing to
Can you make the lights quit flickering when we're doing podcast, please? Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. We're excited to be back in studio.
do. Good morning.
We didn't post one last week because we couldn't post it. It was a rant. So we left it alone.
Yeah, sometimes when you're going through your reality, man, we did a little experiment.
Uh-huh.
And we're having a little bit of a tough bump in our road, a little bit of a tough journey. And we're not at liberty to really have a deep conversation about it, especially not on air. So it was podcast day, it was studio day, and James was like, I don't really, my energy's off. I'm not feeling it. I was like, listen, we need to go in there, get on the microphone, and close the energy circuit of this topic. And I think the best way is to air our dirty laundry on the microphone, record it, and then at that point we can choose whether to upload it and change not only our life, but a lot of other people, because some shit came out. Deep shit. At this time, we won't be posting it.
No, maybe down the road
somewhere. It was
somewhere.
just a healing journey. And I think what I want to share with everybody is, listen, whenever you're working through your deep, dark shadows, whatever trick or technique works for you, try it and see how it feels. Try it and see if it moves the energy. Try it and see if it closes that energy circuit so that you can receive the next layer of information for the next layer of redefining beliefs, patterns, and programs. And what we found for us, it was a new thing. We've never done that before.
Yeah.
But he begrudgingly came in here and got on the microphone because I'm like, yeah, we're doing this. We're going to try it. And we sat in here. I don't even know how long it went.
It was over an hour.
It was over an hour worth of just vomiting out
Frustrations.
deep, dark crap. And, you know, it was like we could finally take a deep breath on the topic. And then as a couple of days went by and the energy shifted and changed, I think it was very
Healing.
It was.
Yeah, I agree.
Cathartic. Is that the word you would use?
Cathartic. Oh, God, here we go.
I feel like that's the proper word if you wanted to sound really smart.
I don't even know.
Somebody look it up.
I can't even spell that word.
It was very healing to just really, because we had been keeping the information to ourselves, just he and I, because we're not at liberty to conversate about it to anyone. And so we were finding a little bit of a challenge in taking the energy behind the topic and really being able to close the energy circuit so that we could move on past that topic.
Yes, totally agree.
And
anyway,
and I think that it was very beneficial.
Yeah, so find your outlet if you need it.
So, for that reason, I'm sorry that you all didn't get a
podcast last week.
Show last week, but we're back on the donkey.
Yep, and we're going to start
along the trail.
We're going to start a series
Get along, little donkey.
We're going to start a little series.
Okay. Take some notes because, I don't remember what all is said.
Yeah. We're going to talk about healthy relationships and how to build one.
Okay.
I think
we kind of started that somewhere along the way, didn't we? In our earlier podcasts.
We talked at one time about controversial stuff in the relationships and how to handle that. But I want to start with step one of finding the right person.
You're talking about intimate relationships?
Yes.
Like with a life partner
your life
or a
partner.
marriage or a significant
boyfriend,
other.
girlfriend, significant other, whatever you want to call it.
I know in the last season we talked about relationships with money and relationships with coworkers. I know we talked about relationship and we said we were going to have multiple parts to it. So, all right, here we go.
I think this first section of this, I think, is how to find and be the perfect partner or have the perfect partner for yourself. And it's identifying this stuff because the reason why it comes up is because some of the clients I've worked with are going through relationship things. Yeah. And you want to stop and say to them, you want to grab them by the shoulders and shake them and say, do you not see, how do you not see what's going on here? And
it makes me want, so the voice that's going on in my head right now is saying this. Say hello to my little friend.
For what?
I don't know.
Okay.
That's
random.
It's off of a show.
I know. But building a healthy relationship, it starts from the very beginning. And being true to yourself and true to others and navigating the journey of finding the perfect partner or identifying the perfect partner in your life starts with you and starts with your honesty with yourself and not conforming to what you think you're supposed to be instead of being just who you are. And it can be
so true.
It can be a societal expectation, so to speak, that, men are supposed to be this way, women are supposed to be this way. And when you're in an individual journey, it doesn't matter what society thinks.
I don't think it should matter what society thinks or has programmed us to be at all. I think that's one of the key components of it is coming away from that construct, that paradigm.
Right. And so like the best way to start is with yourself. And when you are either A, in a journey with somebody, or B, looking for the perfect partner, you have to identify within yourself who you really are by being humble with yourself and realizing, taking your historical events and bring to your current consciousness and reality the things that you identified that you liked about it and the things that you didn't like about it, and look at who you became within it.
You mean like a previous relationship?
Yeah, or if there wasn't one, then the examples that you have of others around you. Because we like as humans to mimic things because the subconscious mind operates without you thinking. And when it gets into a habit, it will continuously repeat that habit because it's the easiest thing to do because it works off of historical events. And so when you are trying to change your future going forward, you have to stop and look at the things that are subconscious trained thoughts. Like, for example, you always hear out there how you have these women that get in domestic violence but they will jump out of one relationship right into another one that's domestic violence because their picker's broke.
Yeah, and that can be happening for two different reasons. One, you're not consciously aware that you're doing it.
Right. That's what I'm saying. The subconscious mind is lazy.
When you're not consciously aware that you're doing it, it is just a belief running on autopilot.
Correct.
Once you become consciously aware that you're doing it and you're choosing to continue to do it, then it is just a habit that you're choosing to continue to hold on to. And then that's when you start working on consciously making an effort to change the habit of it.
I totally agree, because you have to stop and look at the historical events. And when those historical events come into your reality, like, for example, I mean, I'll use the domestic violence thing because this happens a lot. You get stuck in a rut to where you continuously go from one situation to another, that it continues to cause that discomfort and unhappiness. And when you get caught in that rut, the only common denominator in it is you, because it's different people, different times. And so starting a healthy relationship begins with yourself and identifying those things that you don't like and the things that you do like.
Yeah, so I feel like we need to stop right there for just a second.
Okay.
First of all, we are not saying that you
are at fault, right?
Or to 100% blame for being in a domestic violence situation.
Correct. We're not saying that at all.
However, Dr. Jenny would say you do create your reality,
mm-hmm.
and you're creating that experience for the purpose of growth and evolution. And to remember that the two of y'all went into an agreement in your spiritual form that said, I love you so much, I will play this character to help you grow and evolve. But
I'm done with it.
Yes. And so what you're saying, let me see if I understand what you're saying. You're saying that if you find yourself in, we'll use the topic domestic violence. If you find yourself in a situation like that, as the victim-er or the victimee.
Mm-hmm. The victim without the fur.
The perpetrator,
yeah,
or the victim, either one, coming to the realization that you're the common denominator will do this. It will bring it to your awareness, so that you're not just unconsciously going through the motions.
Right. Like when you get into spit spots.
I say spit spots.
When you get into spots and you're in the middle of changing relationships, it's you sit back, you look, because like I said just a minute ago, your subconscious mind's going to do what you have trained it to do based off historical events. And when you're working with a higher vibrational template, but you don't stop and look at those things you don't like and identify them and actually say out loud, listen, I don't want this no more. I'm not going to have this. I own what happened in the past, but I do not want to recreate this same reality. And you work through it and you actually say those things to yourself, reiterate the things that you do like, but chastise the things that you don't. And that way you're going to train your subconscious thought to not bring that person into your reality again, just in a different skin suit. And when you are doing that, being honestly identifying your parts of it and their parts of it, and write it down, whatever you need to do to identify it, work through the process, because the best relationship starts with you. And it is your responsibility to create your reality, not anybody else's. And when you can get the confidence and the self-reliance to identify the negatives and the positives and everything behind you, it's a very humble situation, and you will become internally at peace with yourself. And when you are at peace with yourself, as Dr. Jenny always says, when it's okay to go, it's okay to stay. When it's okay to stay, it's okay to go. It creates a balanced situation. And going forward and identifying those things and moving forward before you start looking for a new person is very crucial.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, you want to clean up your vibration.
Yes.
So that you can align with the frequency of a different kind of person.
Correct.
Because if you're still vibrating at a frequency of domestic violence,
or just unhappiness,
or
you're just not happy in the relationship.
An unpleasant relationship with your partner, you'll just go out and find that same person that's vibrating at that same frequency.
That's correct.
So when you're ready for that to look differently, you have to stop and look at yourself
And clean up the past.
and clean up the beliefs, patterns, and programs around that specific topic so that your frequency around that topic will change. And then that in turn allows you to align with the reality that has the type of partner that you are ready to experience now
Right.
in it. And it then also lets you start picking up on, oh, you know what? Red alert.
Ding, ding,
I'm
ding, ding.
doing this habit, and this is what I did when I was experiencing this other reality where I'm the victim.
Yeah.
So let me stop that and let me do something different. That's how you train yourself out of a habit.
Yes, I totally agree. And you change the vibration of it all.
And it's just, practice.
Yes.
When you're changing a habit, you got to just keep catching yourself do it and stop right then and change
And be very descriptive.
whether it be some physical action that you're doing or mental thought process that you're doing or view. The habit can look many different ways.
Right. I went to a seminar one time, and in the seminar, it was about building healthy relationships. And he said one thing that really rang the bell for me. And he said, go into every relationship like you're blind.
Yeah. I always say, and I've always said, with every relationship, did I come out damaged or did I come out educated?
Right. Right.
And the only way that you can come out educated and not damaged is by stopping in between each relationship, whether it's just a dating relationship on a short-term basis,
Yep.
or it's a long-term relationship or whatever it is. The way to come out educated is that you really have to take an internal look at yourself and say, okay, I had this experience. I liked these parts about it. I didn't like these parts about it. What beliefs, patterns, or programs do I need to modify to have a new experience in a different way, keeping the parts I liked and letting go of the parts I didn't care for? Because even relationships, romantic, intimate partnerships like that, marriage, significant other, your person, no matter how many of them you have, are still areas of learning.
Yeah, totally.
For growth and evolution in that part of the life pie.
Totally
I always
agree.
say that the life is kind of just a big pie,
Yep.
and it has its many different topics cut into slices. And you can be healthy and whole and happy in other topics, and this be the only slice that's wonky.
Yeah.
It totally can be that way.
Yeah.
That's how you go about it is.
Well, and that's where your historical events come into play, because when you identify those things, be specific to yourself, all the way down to, like, do you remember that movie, Must Love Dogs? That was the name of the movie.
I don't
because
think I
it was
ever
about
saw it.
It was about an ad that was placed in the newspaper, and it was entitled Must Love Dogs. It was looking for a mate. And so it actually gives you the reality's perspective of how detailed you should be when you're trying to find that perfectly complete pie.
Yes.
And
it does, I can speak about my own personal journey. I literally came to this place, the other areas of my pie were functioning and we were doing great. And this one area of finding my person, I knew that it was time to do something different. I just knew it in my knowing of knowing. In that little spot where you know. I was like, you know what? It's time to do this in a little bit different way.
Yeah, let's go about this in a different angle.
Right. Let's try something different.
Yeah.
And I
be
did.
open to it. Be open and receptive to it, because
That's right.
the perfect person will walk out of nowhere on you.
Yeah. And so a brief little story about my own journey is I did come to that place of, okay, you know what? I'm the common denominator in all of these. And so what I did is I sat down for probably, I think over the span of about 3 or 4 days, and I literally wrote a book. I felt like it on all of the finite details of what I liked
And what you wanted.
and what I wanted in a partner, in a life partner, in a mate.
Yeah.
Because I said, you know what? I can't find that partner and line up with that frequency if I don't even know what I want.
Right.
And if I am not even willing or able to identify the things that I do and don't want. And so I did. I sat down for days and wrote out this long story about, and I wrote it from a place of there's no rules, no inhibitions. I can have whatever I want, and there's no stopping it.
Yeah.
And when I did that, then the different little cogs and wheels started to go into play, and here
that's
you
because
are.
you became balanced with it, and you created a new story. Because that's where we change history. There's a famous guy on TV that always says the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. And that's because we as humans have a tendency we get energetically so excited to be out of something that we viewed, especially if we're in a relationship that was bad, or if we've been single for a minute, when there's somebody that comes into our reality that may have a little bit of close vibrational frequency with us, we have a tendency to get excited. And we'll overlook those things. We'll overlook all the things, and that is a predictor of future behavior.
Yeah.
And when you put yourself in that spot, you are eliminating your own parameters. And so you've got to calm down, take a deep breath, make sure you're detailed. You've looked at everything, owned it. You have now created this vision of what you want it to look like.
Right.
And then when you become complacent in a level of neutrality, then it's crazy when you're just going through life and you're being happy and healthy. You've already created this idea. You've given it to spirit or your higher self or God, whatever you want to call it, and allowed that to happen unforced, abated, so to speak, tainted. Yeah.
Tainted by your glasses that you're looking through that hold the beliefs, the patterns, the programs.
Right.
When you've let go of that, insisting that it must look a certain way.
Right.
And letting it just be relaxed about it and letting that.
Because I sucked at relationships. I ain't gonna lie. Prior to this.
Come to you when you've got a cleaner vibration that you're putting out. You have a cleaner signal that you're putting out because you've come out of the construct of society says of a happy marriage must look like this.
Right.
And I call it the June Cleaver syndrome.
Yeah. You stay at home. I'm going to go to work. You raise the kids and cook me dinner.
We're going to play mommy and daddy, and this is what it all looks like. And
here's
it has
your
to
toast
look
in the
like
morning.
this, so
Here's
we're
your
not doing
packed
it
lunch.
Right. Here's your little briefcase.
Here's your briefcase.
What was June's?
Let me straighten your tie. Have a good day, husband, and pat him on the butt.
What was June's husband's called? Husband called.
I have no idea.
I don't either. But he wasn't a prominent character. He just was sent out the door to go to the job.
Yeah, it's craziness. But anyway, so when you're in that spot of neutrality, then you're living life, and you have created this. Like Jenny actually created a vision board. I didn't do that. Because I was terrible at relationships prior to Jenny.
I didn't create a vision board based on the person I wanted to spend my life with. Right. I literally wrote the story out in finite detail of everything, what I wanted visually, what I wanted mentally. And I even put in there clauses like, if he has children, they're either going to be loving and compassionate and kind, or they're going to be, if they're not that, then they're going to be non-existent. I'll take either one of those options.
No baby mama drama.
Right. I went into detail about all the different areas, and I used the historical, what you call them?
Historical events?
I used the historical events of what I didn't like.
Yeah.
And touched on those topics specifically.
Yeah. And then added
when
in
I
what
was
you do
in
want.
this relationship, I didn't care for this, this, and this. So what is it that I want in exchange for this, this, and this? And, I had been in relationships where there were other children that were not nice. And so that's why that topic came up. I talked about in my storyline about what do I want the money in our relationship to look like.
Yeah.
All the way down to the detail of, you know what, I would like to know what it's like for him to take care of all the bills and the finances and me to just not even have to think about it or worry about it. I want to experience that. Like I just was, I
It's detailed, very detailed.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't do a vision board on that one.
You wrote a story.
From pictures.
Yeah.
Pictorial. I did a verbology vision board, which was to write it out.
So when you get to that point where you're doing that and you become neutral within it, what I found in my historical events, because I actually, really stopped and just looked at myself in it. And I found out that I was the causer of 99% of my own issues. And
we usually are.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And
because we create our own reality.
That's correct. And I owned it. And so I became settled and kind of calmed and realized that, you know what? I'm not going to push anything. I'm not going to force anything. This is what I want in life. And when it's supposed to be, it'll be. And I just went on about my life, working, doing my friends. I was, whatever it was. I just went on and didn't make it a priority. I made it on the top shelf.
Yeah.
And I didn't go out trying to force issues. I didn't go out settling for things. I didn't go to the bar and pick up women to try to have a relationship that wasn't what I was. Right. Or what I wanted to be. Right. Let me rephrase that. That's what I was in the past. That's not what I wanted to be going forward. And so I had to be clear and honest and present in the moment with myself every time I was in a social environment. Because when you get that human emotion of excitement of, oh my God, this person's good looking. Because we have a tendency as humans, it's how the first thing we do is we see things from a distance, or we start identifying as, man, that person's good looking. It kind of rings my bell. And then our little neutrality level goes to a little bit of happy and excited. And, oh my God, this person's approaching me. And then it changes. And then they come up to you, and like one of your things was intelligence. And they can't carry a freaking conversation in a paper bag. But yet, because they're good looking, you know what? I'm going to give it a chance.
Right. I'm going to set that standard aside.
Yeah, I'm going to set
It's okay. We don't have to talk. I'll just look at them because they're so beautiful.
Because they're so pretty. And that's where we, as humans, have a tendency to veer off the journey. And so stay true to it. Set the parameters, set the expectations. Make sure you clear your historical events and beliefs. And as you go forward and you meet somebody, you have to be okay with this person either is going to be in my bubble or this person is not going to be in my bubble, but I'm not going to veer from what I want.
Yeah. So real quick, I want to go in a direction. Sometimes when that happens, the reason that you're veering from that is you're coming from a place of lack that looks like this.
It's been 6 months.
Right. It's been 6 months, 12 months, and here's this beautiful person, and they're actually looking at me. What if there's never another person that ever approaches me on this whole planet? I better take this one because this is the last fish in the sea.
Oh my God.
This is the opportunity. And so I will set aside some of the things that some of my must-haves because this is the last person that's going to approach me. And if you still have that kind of lingering around in your belief system, you will set aside some of those must-haves and become okay and find yourself not necessarily in the same kind of relationship that you were in, maybe a level or two above, but not completely aligned with that high vibrational relationship that you're really seeking.
In that seminar I went to, he referred to the king syndrome. And that's when men and women both, when a man meets a woman that is like dead sexy and just, resonates with his sexual desires and all that stuff, they have a tendency to look at that person as higher in worth than they are.
Wait, say it again. Wait, say
They
it again.
will look at that person as a higher self.
Who?
When the man looks at a woman as very sexy, and it resonates with them with their lustful sexual desires, and this person is engaged with them, they have a tendency to put them up on a pedestal.
Who is they?
The person that's looking at it. You need to stay on track here. What are you doing? The man sees a woman that's very sexy, the woman, and hits his desires. When this woman engages with him, this man will have a tendency to put her up on a pedestal and make his self-value less than hers.
Oh, I see. And then put her in this category.
In the category of I'm so lucky to have her.
Oh.
I'm so lucky to her be engaged in me.
I see. And then that immediately drops his frequency because his self-worth
Just went out the window.
just went down. And so then
women do the same
he's
thing.
not picking up on the fact that she's not hitting on all the frequency
That's correct.
levels of what he wanted to experience.
Yes, that's correct.
Ooh, nicely said, sir. I like it.
And women do it the same way. And
Yes.
they'll lower their self-value and their
Oh my
self-worth.
God, I can't believe that he is
He's actually talking to me. Oh my God,
to me.
it's Fabio.
Where's the butter? Yeah, yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
then it becomes a chase.
Especially if, as a woman, you view your physical body as not quite what it is in the dumbass magazines or on the freaking commercials.
Yeah.
Especially back in our day when that model figure for females was so very prominent.
Anorexic and 85
the
pounds.
stick figure.
Yeah.
For God's sakes.
Yeah. And that's,
so when you find that Fabio that actually engages with you, and you'll find yourself going to that place of, oh my God, did you see that? He actually made eye contact with me. And you tell all your girlfriends,
yeah.
oh my God, he's coming over here. Do
Oh my
I
God.
stink? Are my boobs right? Like, oh my God. Okay. Nobody
Yeah.
panic.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. And it's and chemically and scientifically, what I learned through this is that is an exchange of pheromones between two humans. When they resonate with each other, your body will release things that makes you have desire.
Absolutely.
And so the learning to control that desire within it without lowering your parameters is where another place where we as humans have a tendency to get off track.
Yeah.
And man, will we let down our parameters. You know, you wake up the next morning and you start chewing your arm off.
Right.
You know, you're like, what just happened? You know?
Right.
And you don't even, it's crazy how it happens. Because when you get in that place, it's like.
What do you mean by chewing your
You start
arm
putting
off?
when you wake up next to somebody you didn't really want to.
Like they're laying on your arm.
Yeah, they're laying on your arm.
And you
you're
don't
like,
want to wake them up.
You don't want to wake them up because
So
it'll
you'll
disturb
chew
them.
your arm
You'll
off
chew
to
your
get
arm
away.
off to get away.
Okay.
And we when we do that and we get ourselves into that position, this is where we have humans veer off track because we do not know how to get back out of it. And instead of just resetting.
Why do we not know how to get out of it?
Because we have now put this person in this pedestal.
Okay.
And you're like, and then the next day you're holding your cell phone and you're waiting for that text. Oh my God, are they ever going to text me? You know, you're pushing you're checking your phone every 5 minutes. Is this person I just put on this pedestal the night before? Are they going to reach out? Was I terrible? I mean, what happened? They're not going to, you know? And then when they do text, it's like all freaking parameters go out the window. Yay! They picked me.
Right. And they could have just sent a text like, you sucked and you're a bitch.
Yeah.
Oh, look, he texts me.
Oh, yeah.
He
it
said,
means he's thinking of me.
I'm bitching hot and let's do it again.
And don't think for 1 minute guys don't do the same thing. They do. I mean, I remember having specific conversations with my friends that were dating. They would be like, okay, so this girl was okay, but I'm not real sure if it's like dating potential, but it could be friends with benefits. You know, so am I supposed to text her? Because, you know, like we went home from the bar last night and we did you know, and so am I supposed to text her or is it going to be too oogie? And we've actually had men have those same conversations. So don't think for 1 minute that they don't.
Right.
And even I had a couple of gay friends that were football officials that we hung out with, and they are the same way. And so it has nothing to do with sexuality or gender. It has everything to do with the proper way of having relationships.
Doing business, basically.
Doing business, because it really is. Relationships are a business, really. But the thing about it is everybody seems to forget is when they let that person jump up on that pedestal and you drop your parameters, it's okay to stop and say, I had a weak point. This person's not really there.
Right.
Now, if it was a good time and you're not sure about the parameters, make sure you have those conversations. Do you like dogs? Blah, 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 blah. Are you responsible? Do the interview because it's a negotiation.
Right.
And
it really is. Is this person, are they willing to...
Are they checking all the boxes?
Go about life in a similar way as me for right now?
Right.
Are they aligned with my, it really, really is,
my life goals, my parameters, everything, my wants and needs, and
my financial perspectives, my religious perspectives, my sexual perspective.
Right. And it's okay to not do that on the first date. It's okay to build that up. Just remember, you have to be able at any given time to do boop, hit that button and eject.
And say, yeah, you're not a fit. Bye-bye.
Yeah, we'll just say, listen, this has been good, but after our time here, I just don't feel like that this is for me long term. Now, there's a difference between having like a friend with benefit thing and long-term relationship. You didn't
pass your 90-day eval. Eject button.
Yep, and that's okay to do that, because if you don't do that, then you're just repeating history, and it's okay for you to hit the eject button because you have at this point created new parameters and removed fear.
So why do you think it is that some people will continue forward in a relationship even if they are identifying that some of their must-haves are absolutely not even a possibility, and then they're kind of settling out? Okay, that's not really a must-have. I'll be okay if I don't have that or this or that or that.
Well,
What do you think causes that to happen?
It's a fear and lack of self-worth. They don't value their own parameters and expectations in a place of solidified beliefs. And so they get to the point, well, maybe I'm just asking too much, and I'm here and that's not good, because when you think to yourself, and maybe I set the parameters too high. Maybe I need to lower my standards. I've actually heard people say that.
Right. And you went right where I wanted you to go. The core reason for doing it is the perspective one has on their own deservability and their own self-worth.
Right.
If you are lacking in that perspective of yourself, then the rationale that comes out of your mouth will look like many different things.
Yeah.
Maybe I am asking too much. It'll also look like this. You know what? Gosh, I don't want to hurt the person's feelings.
Yeah.
I don't want to be mean.
You don't have to be mean.
So,
right.
But listen, I don't want to hurt. He's such a nice guy, and he does meet at least this box and this box, and I don't want to be mean to him. And he's had such a bad relationship before. Those are all just justification stories to make it okay for you to allow this habit to go on, even though it's telling you in your knowing places, this is not checking the boxes.
This exact scenario actually came up in one of my historical events, and I had this girl that I worked with, and she had a master's or doctorate in social. She was a social worker, whatever that is. Anyway, very smart, very good looking, very outgoing. She was independent, owned her own home. She had all this stuff, but she had only had one ever good relationship in her life, and it didn't work out well because his job transferred him, and they ended up breaking up. But anyway, And one day I was drinking coffee with her. It was a bunch of us from work, and we were sitting there, and she was going over her must-haves because we were all giving her a hard time about being single. Because, I mean, she was a total package, really. She independent, nice, just funny as hell. I mean, she was that woman that would say shit that nobody else would.
Right.
And good looking, and just, I mean, she was really just a total package. And we're all giving her a hard time about not dating. And she went over this entire list of her must-haves, and one of the women said, "Man, that's a big list." And I mean, for me, it's just good in bed, got money, and good looking. And she was like, "Yeah, you're going to keep getting what you're getting." And here's the crazy part: is about 3 or 4 weeks later, this guy walks in the door and walks into her office, and he was shaggy looking, he just didn't look anything anyway. So he's in there for about 15, 20 minutes, and then you see him walk out, and she kisses him, and he walks out the front door. And it was that moment in time where you say, "Hmm?" You just preached to this girl when we all went out for coffee about lowering her standards. And then, I mean, don't get me wrong, he was a good looking young man. First of all, he was like way younger than she was. And so I go over to him like, "Hey D, who is that?" And she said, "He's my new boy toy." I'm like, "Who is he?" And she said, "He's my lawn guy. He mows my lawn for me."
On many different levels.
I was like, "So is he like just a long-term thing?" Or because you made it sound like just 3 weeks ago that you're on the search for the relationship. And she said, "No, women have needs."
Well,
you know what happened 9 months later?
That's true. What?
She married him.
Okay.
And we all went to the wedding, and prior to, we had the reception. And at the reception, she was out there, and she asked me to dance with her. And so I did, because we were really close friends. We were really good friends.
Yeah.
And I was dancing with her. I said, "The lawn boy? What happened to your long list?" And she said, "I trained him."
Yikes.
I was like, you trained him? How did you train him to be financially stable? "Oh, I have that part." "Oh, okay. So you just removed that one and threw it out the window."
Wah, wah, wah.
And so, anyway, to make a long story short, about a year and a half later, he ran off with the neighbor. Yeah. And she came back. Of course, she calls me crying. I'm like, "You're the one that threw the parameters out."
Yeah.
And she's like, "You're supposed to be consoling me." "No, I'm not. I'm supposed to be your big brother. And you sucked at that. It's time to have some ownership."
Yeah.
I mean, this dude was like 14 years younger than her, and like right out of high school, it seemed like. I don't know. But it was like crazy. But I see it all the time. And you can't lower your standards. And she did it because she was bored. She hadn't dated in a minute. No guys were asking her out, and it was.
Yeah, now listen, you in that area, if you do get bored, it's okay to find somebody to play with.
Right.
And play that game in the sandbox for a minute.
Yeah.
But stay true to
long-term goals,
the must-haves.
Yeah.
And go into that knowing that this is just my playmate for the time being.
Yeah.
And don't get swept up in the energy of this being your most joyful and excitement place right now.
Sorry. I just thought
and get it mixed up with the, "Oh my God, this is my lifelong partner."
Yeah.
Keep it separate.
You can't train anybody. Get that, women.
Yes.
Just take that out of your mind. You can't train anybody to be the perfect guy. And guys, you're not going to save that woman.
No, you're not.
You're not a hero. You're just you. Just be you. Yeah. And that perfect person will walk right into your life. Fix your pickers.
You can't make anybody do anything that they don't want to do.
They can fake it for a minute, and that's what always happens. Is to get to accomplish the goal, because if people have a fear of saying to somebody, "This ain't working out." They think they can fix something, and you can't.
Listen, whenever you and I got together, what happened? I literally came in like I was in an interview, and I said, "Listen, here's the
we both did.
Here's the 90-day plan."
Yeah.
I don't need you.
We're going to have sex
I'm
tonight.
perfectly fine. I am. You're in my life because I want you. And here's my baggage, here's my closets of shit that I bring with me.
Yeah.
If any of that's deal breakers for you,
let me know now.
Let me know now. And he did the same thing.
Yeah,
literally.
It was like a pretty heated argument.
It wasn't really an argument. It just was a very passionate conversation.
I agree.
Of let's get down and dirty with this interview straight up, because cut to the chase. Like, I am not about eating a sugar-coated shit sandwich. And
say that 3 times fast.
Right. And you were in that same place.
Yeah, I was just, I was just ready to be different. And we
had that conversation that people are so afraid to have with the potential partner.
Lay it all out there.
Lay
it out there.
And we did, man.
Yep.
We did. We laid it out. Listen, we're both on a 90-day plan. We are looking like
now. This was like 2 weeks into us dating or something.
It was,
and because that's the key to it is you don't want to do that on the first date, first of all, because then that's oogie. Get to know somebody, and if it's somebody that you could maybe you think can hit your parameters,
yourself, right?
Then say, hey, listen, I'm liking where this is going,
right?
And if you feel the same way, I would like to have a serious conversation about future and make sure we check each other's boxes.
You're right. And that's really how it went. I mean, I try to put it out there jokingly. It wasn't like I just come slamming through the door in this dominant character saying, all right, listen, this is the way this is going to throw down.
Right.
That's just me putting my joke on it. But yeah, it had been a couple of weeks, and
we both liked the direction it was going, so we had the conversation.
We both enjoyed the direction it was going,
yep.
And our must-have boxes were being ticked off, and it came to that place where we said, because neither one of us was looking necessarily for that long life partner.
No,
you weren't.
No, I was in the middle of a divorce.
Actually, even looking.
Yeah, I
was on a dating website, but I was only looking for. Like I like to dance. Just somebody to play with.
Yeah.
So we could go out and I'd have a dance partner.
Yeah.
Somebody I could just call, hey, you want to go see a movie? Or, hey, you want to bleep?
Yeah.
Right? So I wasn't looking
horizontal mambo.
I wasn't looking for anything long-term either.
But, it came to the point, and it's okay. That's the point I want to get to. Is try it, yo-yo yourself, and put it out there and say, listen, I like the way this is going. Let's have the conversation and see if we're going to meet each other's needs like we did. And at the end of that, we were both like, okay, listen, we're not going to commit to anything long-term. Let's just, we're checking boxes. Looks like we can meet each other's needs, and let's just see where it goes.
Yeah, so I want to put one other thing out there that we kind of touched on is put yourself in the situation where you can practice not getting wrapped up in the emotional excitement of a new person to play with. That's the journey I was on when you came about, is that I was on the dating site, but I was on it for a very poignant purpose of practicing a new habit of going into an encounter with a potential person to play with, knowing that if my boxes were not potentially checked or there was any kind of red flags that popped up, making myself stay consciously aware of that, and then finding the ability within me to say to that person, this
ghosting you,
not really working, I'm out.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And practicing what that looked like for me.
Because there are some validity.
Because I wasn't very good at that part.
Yeah, I wasn't either.
I identified that. I was good about identifying I don't like these things that are happening, but where I was flawed in it was going to that person and saying, this is not really working for me, and so I'm checking out of the relationship.
Right.
Because I didn't want to be mean, or I didn't want to, the poor guy's had such bad relationships. I know that I can be the one relationship that's perfect for him.
I can fix him.
I can modify me to be what he needs.
Right.
Which is identified as AKA self-sacrifice.
Right. It is. You can't self-sacrifice. And, there's some validity to some of the phrases that are out there. and I want to say this, I know because they sound kind of condescending and those kind of things, but there are some validity in the mental side of it. Like one of the ones I heard just the other day, somebody say, the best way to get over somebody is to get under somebody else.
Oh, wow.
And there's some validity to that.
There is.
Like this person had been in a long-term relationship and hadn't had the, engagement of another human being after an ugly relationship for like 16 years. And when like she was saying, it's just so hard, because I have this person in my bubble that I really enjoyed that decided he was going to go elsewhere. Mm-hmm. And now I keep comparing everybody to him. And and it was actually a good response was, well, the best way to get over somebody is to get under somebody else. And
as long as you do it from a different perspective,
right. That's correct,
and not get swept up in the whole garbage that you went into the other relationship with.
Correct, and don't take one void and fill it with another. Right. Fill it with somebody else. Don't pull that person out
blindly,
right?
Because you'll just end up in the same situation.
And so, what I'm trying to say is, you said a minute ago, it's okay to have that little temporary fun time. It's okay to give yourself permission to go dance with somebody else, or even have sex with somebody else. Just
identify the reasons and
identify
the
why it's there. Right. I don't get caught up in the lawn boy being sexy. Because that's the point behind it.
Right.
And so I guess the first step of the relationship, of building a healthy relationship is fix your picker. Your picker is broke. And when your picker is broke, the only person that can fix it is you.
Yeah.
Looking at the historical events, going through the parameters of what you want, setting the intention behind it and not veering from it, but giving yourself permission to play.
Right.
Because you have to be fun and happy and healthy, because if you're putting yourself out there and you have these parameters already listed and you're putting yourself out there and being happy and outgoing, you're going to attract that kind of person back.
Yeah.
And so, but if you're down here on this low vibrational level, oh, woe is me. Oh my gosh. And you're going to get that person that comes to you, you know, like one of the other phrases is misery loves company. Yeah. And that's true because it's negative energy. Negative, like attracts like, positive attracts positive. Right. And when you put yourself into that position of controlling your reality, giving yourself the permission, setting the parameters, sticking to it, you have fixed your picker.
Right.
And then you're going to find out that real good relationships do exist, because I am in one right now. It is the best relationship that I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, that's because we both kind of like, we did the work.
Yeah.
And it can be a short journey. It can be a long journey.
Yeah.
I know for me, I was out of a relationship, a committed long-term relationship, for about 3 years.
Be patient too. Yeah.
Before I really committed to you and came in to that. But in that 3 years, I identified within me, like I was saying, what areas I was weak at.
Yeah.
And then I practiced getting stronger at those areas.
Yeah.
Like not justifying reasons to not get out of a relationship that I knew in my heart of hearts was not going to work out and was not healthy. Yep. I would justify staying because I didn't want to be mean or whatever. All those points are already made. And so I put myself in certain situations to practice that and to get better at saying, you know what? You're a cool dude, but this is just not going to work for me. Yep. I appreciate the time we've had together, but this is so long for now.
Yes, no, I totally agree.
And practicing doing that. So when you do some self-reflection and you find areas and identify areas that you're weak in, it's okay to take some time to go out and practice with other beings that are willing to practice with you. And how do you know they're willing to practice? Because they say yes when you say, hey, do you want to go out and see a movie?
Right.
That's them saying on an energetic level, yep, I will go and practice this thing with you.
Because the deal is you set the parameters, and generally speaking, those people will come into your reality that hit the first 3 or 4 of the parameters too, and that's the people you play with.
Right.
because they're going to have the same energy level.
Yeah.
And it gives you the opportunity to see how you're meshing
Yeah.
until down the road a little bit when you kind of like the way it's going, then
Right.
have the conversation.
And every time I would go out on a play date, I would come back and I would say, okay, what parts did I like about that? What did I not like? What is this human doing that I do like? What are they doing that I don't like? What beliefs is this tapping into? What junk is ready to come up and be cleared out of the way in me? Did it trigger anything? And I would do kind of this whole self interview. And see how to better clean up that area so that my frequency would raise,
Yep.
where I could continue to have a more evolved experience up the ladder.
And that's how you fixed your picker.
That is. So now I can pick a seat that is quite comfortable.
Yep. All righty. Hey, you feel complete?
Yeah, I'm good.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Hey, thank you all for listening to the first phase of building a healthy relationship. I think we're going to call this one Fix Your Picker.
Fix your picker.
Because the reality is your picker's probably broke. If you're having a hard time with your relationship, your picker's broke. And your self-worth is down. So let's
So the only thing you should be picking is your butt or your nose?
Yeah, pretty much. And let's flick the burgers on the wall.
Oh my God. Note to self, check the wall, see if we need new paint.
Anyway, hey, thank you all for listening. Don't forget to like, follow, and share, and stay tuned for the next sections of building a healthy relationship, because we'll get into this step by step all the way through it, all the way to maintaining. And it's going to be fun, I think. It's going to be a great experience because it can be life altering. It is crazy good to have a great relationship.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyway, like, follow, share. Don't forget to
ring that bell.
Y'all have an awesome day.
Love you.